We celebrated his 70th birthday. Next day, we go to that Sunday night.
Yeah, look at that. John has good much John Fowler.
Why is John not here for this? But glad he's laughing.
Hours.
When did this happen?
So the guy said,
I didn't get a chance to talk to him at all last night.
I
feel bad.
He finished there, I spent a week, I don't know, on some of his birthday. So. Oh, fire department. Property.
We talked to his dad.
John. Work.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah.
Around or back.
Restraining order.
Yep.
Ugh. Yeah, it surprises me that Brandon doesn't take that more seriously.
John. He's got a wine stuff.
GM at AWA, he's available.
Usually it's engineering,
This is one I've ever seen. It's a good first one to be at. Do you live in the town? Oh, Jesus. Or, yeah, Karen was doing it. Karen was doing it from the East Coast and it was fine. So Napa's fine by us. I see plenty of filmmakers out there. I see plenty of.
There's a couple more shares.
All right, 1 minute warning. If you need to get a drink, get a drink. Go pee, get a pee. I just, no. Thank you. Yeah. All right, 6 o'clock. Let's call to order the meeting for today. Can we start with the roll call?
Yeah.
Okay. Chair Mulvey, Vice Chair Baguette,
Here.
Commissioner Hanson,
Here.
Commissioner Kirkley, and then Commissioner Trojan is absent.
Have a form. Stand, pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
All right, I'm going to open a public forum, and this is for anything other than what's on today's agenda. Nope. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I second that.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm doing roll call. All right. Okay. So moving on to the main agenda for today. The city first?
Yep.
We are going to be discussing today, the special meeting regarding 11 Ridge Road. There's going to be a few items for this, as everyone is well aware. We're going to start with the city's overview, and then afterwards we'll open it to public comment. So
Yeah.
I'll hand over to Erin.
Okay, thank you. So tonight on the agenda is a multi-part application, including a zoning ordinance amendment, a development agreement, a site plan application, a sign permit, and a conditional use permit. So I'm going to quickly go over how we see the meeting kind of running from here forward. So I'm going to ask that the commissioners provide disclosures before I get into the presentation. So that is any conversations or discussions you've had to get that information on the record. Once that's done, I'll do a staff presentation, and then we will open the public hearing. We'll allow the applicant to present, and we will take public comment from the committee or from the community here. And Lucy will help, or the chair will help to facilitate that. We do ask that if people have kind of the same comment that the person before them has, to say that you agree with that, or to kind of make sure that we get through everyone's comments this evening, since there's a lot of you here tonight. So you don't have to repeat the same thing over and over again. Once the public comment has been completed, the applicant will have up to 5 minutes to respond. And then the planning commission, it will come back to the planning commission, where they will be able to ask questions of staff or the applicant, and they can start their debate and move on to making a motion, or asking other questions, things like that for this item tonight. So with that, do the commissioners have any disclosures that they would like to get onto the public record before we begin?
I was really, really careful to not talk to anybody
Okay.
and sway myself before any of the commissioners, so I'm good.
This also, commissioners, includes any documents you were given that's not publicly available. So I don't have any disclosures. I have none. Mark? No.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So we're going to jump right into it. So tonight, there are multi-parts to this application. The first part are recommendations to the city council, and then the second are approvals contingent on council approval. So besides conducting a public hearing and receiving public input, we are asking that the Planning Commission recommends to the city council the adoption of a zoning ordinance to allow one retail cannabis business within the city, which would be subject to conditions of a development agreement and would require a conditional use permit. Recommend to the city council that they approve the development agreement, the draft development agreement with Sutter Creek Responsible and Compliant Retail, Embark. I'm going to refer to them as Embark, or the applicant here forward, and also find that the zoning ordinance in development agreement are categorically exempt from CEQA. Then there's 2 exemptions: existing facilities and common sense exemptions. What entitlements that the Planning Commission has the authority to approve is the site plan permit, the conditional use permit, and the sign permit. So staff is asking that the Planning Commission approve those applications contingent on council approval. So obviously, if the council does not approve a zoning ordinance amendment to allow one retail cannabis business, their conditional use permit would not be valid because it still would not be an allowed use within the city. And then along with that approval of those 3 entitlements would be the CEQA exemptions. So briefly, the project overview. The proposal is a commercial cannabis retail and delivery business located at 11 Ridge Road, which is a former bank building. The applicant is proposing some minor interior and exterior tenant improvements. We'll go over a little bit more of that when we get to the site plan application. And they have 17 on-site parking spaces. The application includes a citywide zoning ordinance amendment, the development agreement between the applicant and the city, a conditional use permit application, a site plan application, and a sign permit. The applicant is proposing to start with a 1-year pilot program, but the life of the development agreement is 5 years, and we'll go a little bit more into that, into detail on that further in the presentation. And just a little background, on the February 17th city council meeting, the council voted 3-2 to consider the development agreement for this specific project at this specific location. In May, the applicant submitted to the city their application, and then today, obviously, we are reviewing the project. The Planning Commission packet was very large. There was a lot of material. There was a lot of material on the website too. So we're going to go through some of that here tonight. But the Planning Commission packet also included overview of state laws regulating cannabis, some background information on Embark, including their business and operational plans, community letters, and CEQA concerns that were raised by other agencies, and then responses from Embark's team regarding those CEQA concerns. So we will start with the zoning ordinance amendment. Currently, the code prohibits retail cannabis businesses within the city. If the planning commission recommends approval of an amendment to the zoning ordinance to the city council, it would amend the codes, both Title 10 and Title 18, to allow one retail cannabis dispensary, which would be only permitted with a conditional use permit and a development agreement. So if anyone else came through this process at any point, they would go through the same thing for the one permit that the city would allow with this type of amendment. So by doing this, we have strict control over where this business could be, how it would operate, things like that, by adding a requirement of a development agreement and a conditional use permit. Also by limiting it to one. So let's say business number one comes in, they open, they operate for a year, and they decide to close down. Only one permit would be issued. So someone else could then go through this same process, apply for a conditional use permit, present the city with a development agreement to go through the same process. It wouldn't just be a first come, first serve type permit. We could turn another application down. In making an adjustment or an amendment, I'm sorry, to the zoning ordinance, we do feel is in the harmony with the general plan, because it is a commercial retail business and retail is allowed already in the C2 zone, which is the zone that this current application is proposed for. Any questions on the zoning ordinance amendment? I know I'm going through this quickly. I've been looking at this a lot, so it's all in my head. I want to make sure that it's coming out clearly to everyone here.
I
Good.
thought we were waiting for comments till
Okay, I
after
didn't- if-
everyone,
oh.
so.
Okay, if anyone has the.
No.
Next up is the development agreement. So the development agreement is a contract between the city and an applicant. So we use development agreements for different things. Another one that people might be familiar with was the one that was adopted along with the Gold Rush Ranch. That one has since expired, but it's a way for the city to have additional controls on a project, get additional benefits from a project, and also provides the applicant some reassurance for things. So generally, development agreements are used to negotiate community benefits beyond what is just required in the zoning code. And we'll go into that on the next slide. For example, what was negotiated in the development agreement is the payment of an 8% public benefit fee to the city. So on top of regular taxes that the city would collect for a retail business. So some of the other financial benefits that are laid out in the development agreement is payment into the community law enforcement fund for cameras. And then 1% payment of 1% in the community nonprofit fund, which will be controlled by a local board. And that's something that Embark sets up in the communities that they are established in. They do create a local board to help manage those funds that are collected. They fund youth, drug, and alcohol education programs. They anticipate hiring 15 to 18 people that are local to the community, so providing 15 to 18 new jobs, security access for law enforcement, and they are also they provide a 24/7 hotline for good neighbor obligations. The DA allows for the city to have strict oversight on this business and their operations. There also is extensive state regulations on cannabis, the sales of it. There will not be manufacturing here, but the tracing of cannabis products that leave the store and who they go to. We have reviewed a detailed operating and security plan and community agreement. And within that, there's required meetings and reportings that the city will be, meeting with the applicant on a regular basis. They'll be providing us information to make sure that we can check that what they say they're going to do, that they are actually doing. And last is the minimize the city blight. So this location has been vacant for several years and there are empty storefronts in that area up on Sutter Hill. So this would bring a new business, more people coming to that area, maybe supporting other local businesses, and also just a little facelift on that existing building. So the applicant is proposing a 1-year pilot program.
Yeah, I actually want to see. Would
Okay.
you guys like to sit down? We have more chairs. You're okay. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. So a 1-year pilot program. And so that would, after that year would be an extensive comprehensive review by the city, like I said, to make sure that the applicant is performing as we expect them to perform. It would be an opportunity to see if the revenue that they anticipated meets what is actually happening, seeing how much funding is going into these community funds and nonprofit funds, to check in on the youth drug and education programs, and to make sure that their board is up and running to help allocate the money to the community. The DA, the development agreement, also has a 5-year initial term, and the city can agree to grant additional 5-year extensions of that. And so that would be reviewed by the city council, and they would be the body that would grant those extensions on the development agreement. And the city can retain the authority to terminate the agreement at any time. So if the applicant is not complying with the terms of the development agreement or the conditional use permit, the city can terminate that and they would not be able to continue operating. So the first year is probationary, and then 5 years with the renewal term. Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I feel like I should give you a break from, you're doing a
Sorry.
lot of talking.
It's okay.
But I think one thing to say is we added the CUP gives us additional control working with the development agreement as opposed to just having a development agreement.
Yeah.
So we're comfortable the city has a lot of control here.
Yeah. So those first 2 entitlements are the ones that we're asking for the planning commission to make a recommendation on. The city council is the only has authority to actually approve those. And so whether it's, this amendment to the zoning code or the short-term rental one that we've talked about before, it's a recommendation to the city council. They would approve or deny that change to the ordinance. So next is the conditional use permit. And this is where the planning commission has authority to approve, conditionally approve, or deny. So just some basic operational information about Embark. They plan to be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Like I mentioned, they will be employing about 15 to 18 people with, and their goal is that those are local people. The delivery will be starting in about 3 years, which would bring an additional 1 employee. The way that they describe delivery, it's not like a pizza delivery where you call and then your pizza comes out and then your neighbor calls and the pizza comes out. You would make your order the day before, and then there would be a delivery route. So the delivery driver would leave, he would drop off his 5 deliveries and then be done delivering for the day. So it's not in and out all day long. There's no appointment necessary to go into the store during business hours. And there is strict operating plan that requires the scanning of IDs they have like a check-in security guard who would take your ID, make sure that you are of age to go in, and before they would let you in. So here is a partial list of the conditions. So the first one, which is not on here, but is in your packet, is this is all contingent on a zoning ordinance amendment. Like I said, currently today we could not issue a conditional use permit for this because it is not allowed in our zoning ordinance. If the council does amend the zoning ordinance, then this would be allowed with the CUP. So even if you decided to approve or conditionally approve a conditional use permit tonight, it would be on pause, on hold until the council made their action. So if they decided to not move forward with the zoning ordinance amendment, then this would just become null and void, the conditional use permit. So partial list that to meeting all the conditions of the development agreement, laws and regulations, to keep us up to date of any change in licensure status, no live music or amplified speakers, kind of to draw attention to the building. There will be building permit requirements, including ADA compliance there. To obtain a business license, odor control, no marketing or advertising to targeting people under the age of 21, and then to have the no more than 2 deliveries in one day. Here are the required findings that the commission must make to grant a conditional use permit. So these are findings you have all seen before in our other conditional use permits. So I'll just go over them quickly. The proposed use of the property are desirable to the public convenience and welfare. The proposed use will not impair the integrity and character of the area in which it is located. The proposed use will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare. There's adequate public utilities and services available, and the proposed use of the property are in harmony with the general plan. So the in italics is kind of our expansion on how we believe that the Planning Commission can make those findings. Again, it's all in the staff report, how I normally do it with the findings, and then again, explained. The next application is the site plan permit. So this is what changes you would see to the physical site. So here is the building as it stands now, 11 Ridge Road. It's about a 2,600 square foot building on a 1/4 acre. It's in the C2 commercial zoning district. They have adequate parking spaces there. They are just proposing some minor changes to the exterior of the building, which includes signage, removing the existing exterior ATM since it was a bank. And they will be repainting the building, and they are adding some kind of localized landscaping just at the front. You know, it's a developed site to begin with, but they want to spruce it up a little bit more. So the adjacent uses are all commercial uses, multi-tenant commercial uses. The gas station, there is to the south is county property, which is currently vacant. Like I said, minor interior and exterior tenant improvements. And this project is located outside of the historic district, so does not require design review. Again, here are the findings for a site plan permit. The proposed site development is essential or desirable to the public convenience and welfare. The proposed site development will not impair the integrity or character of the area in which it is located or the zoning district. And the proposed site development will ensure that adequate public utilities and services are provided so that the project would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and general welfare. And then the final permit that they are asking for approval of is a sign permit. So they are just proposing to replace the existing faces of the signs there. That big monument sign is larger than what is permitted by code, but that was permitted to be there. So staff is just recommending that the Planning Commission allow them to put new faces on those signs. They are open to not putting the green cross, if that's something that the Planning Commission does not want to see, and leaving the ATM sign there. I believe they will have an ATM available. So that is something, but it's just the monument sign and that's on the road, and then the sign, the wall sign on the building. Okay. CEQA. So staff believes that this project as a whole is categorically exempt from CEQA based on 2 exemptions. Based originally on an existing facility exemption. So the building was a retail building, a 2,600 square foot bank building. The use of the traffic generated by a bank is similar to that of a cannabis dispensary, with people kind of coming and going. You know, it's a quicker trip than, let's say, a restaurant, I guess. And they'll be operating about 1,300 square feet of retail space. So that is why we went with why we feel that a notice of exemption, class 1 existing facilities is appropriate in this case. There also is, we are also recommending to add the common sense exemption to this, which kind of says if we use common sense, there will be no additional environmental impacts on this. So,
Yeah, and just to,
Rob.
there've been a bunch of letters on the CEQA aspects, and I think you guys have seen most of those. There's another one at your places. There's actually a Supreme Court ruling at the end of June, which the applicant asked that we consider, and our city attorney, who was here a second ago, did consider it. And so we were adding this common sense exemption, which, again, because it's this thing, commercial retail space, it seemed like this also applied.
So this is how this slide here kind of goes over the rationale and calculations we use to come up with a no impact for the traffic analysis. So you can see the dispensary trips rate of 70 to 250 trips per day per 1,000 square feet, where banks are approximately 100 trips per 1,000 square feet. So we estimated at 195 new daily trips, which is considered less than significant. Level of service is actually not the way that you evaluate traffic impacts anymore. It is more vehicle miles traveled, and we actually believe that will decrease as if people that are currently in the county are driving further outside of the county to existing dispensaries, that those trips will now become shorter because they will have a local option. So, Tom already kind of went over this, why we have added the common sense exemption to what we are recommending, which is in addition to what was in the staff report. Okay, so just to kind of wrap this all up, again, we're asking that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing or receive public input, and then provide recommendations to the City Council on the zoning ordinance amendment, the development agreement, and the CEQA exemptions, and then also make a determination to contingently approve the site plan permit, conditional use permit, sign permit for 11 Ridge Road, and find that those permits are categorically exempt from CEQA. Okay.
On top. Sorry.
And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome.
I'd like to invite the applicant up now to speak in regards to the project. You have 10 minutes. City, are we keeping time?
The clerk will keep.
Okay.
2 minutes or so.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Josh Lewis. I'm a Sutter Creek native, and I oversee government and community relations for Park. I'm joined this evening by Park's co-founders, Lawrence Carpenter, our CEO, and her husband, Dustin Moore, our Chief Compliance Officer. In a few minutes, I'll hand things over to Lauren, and all three of us look forward to answering any questions you may have. Before we get to project details, I want to briefly speak on why this project is important. I can be loud. There we go. I want to speak briefly about why this project is here. And the honest answer that starts with me. I was born in Sutter Creek and lived most of my life in Amber County. I graduated from Amber in 2018, and when I left for UC Berkeley, I studied public policy with the goal of serving rural communities like the one that raised me. That path eventually led me to working with Embark because I came to understand that cannabis policy is rural policy. The benefits of getting it right land hardest in communities like ours. I approached the city of Sutter Creek earlier this year about opening a store here for 2 reasons. First, because I've seen firsthand what our stores do for the communities they serve. And second, because I know intimately the problems our local young people face. I lived them 18 years myself. There is a thriving illicit market that targets our youth, and there is a community and city that deserve far more resources to tackle the kinds of challenges that are unique to our rural communities. Through my experiences opening stores in many communities, I also understand that fear is always a part of these conversations, particularly in this stage in the beginning. I don't dismiss it, and I imagine we'll hear a lot of it tonight. I want you and everyone here to know that we are always open to exploring questions, comments, and concerns together. But after years spent working alongside the communities that host Embark's 17 stores, and as a Sutter Creek native, I can personally attest to the transformative impact our operations have, and I'm incredibly excited at the prospect of bringing those here to my hometown. The city deserves to harness and leverage revenue from the safe, well-regulated sale of a product that is already so prevalent in Amador County and in Sutter Creek. The community deserves appropriate legal access to a product that we've heard time and time again is critical to their care. And most importantly, as the track record in dozens of communities across California demonstrates, licensing well-regulated cannabis locally is the right policy choice to combat an illicit market that is already selling indiscriminately with no ID checks, no product testing, and no regard for who is buying. I've learned that it's hard to fight those feelings with facts alone, so let me offer something more personal. As someone who has been in love with this town since the day I was born, I can tell you that this is not only the right policy, but it will deliver that transformative impact here. We can't prove that locally until we're given the chance to operate, but after 7 years operating in 16 communities with 17 stores, it has been proven every single time. So with that context, and if we could go to the next slide, we're before you tonight seeking approval to operate at 11 Ridge Road in the larger Sutter Hill Business Corridor. Allow me to briefly introduce the rest of the team behind the proposal. First, our roots. We are a family business. Lauren and Dustin founded Embark at their dining room table in 2019. 7 years later, it remains one, and one that grew up in Northern California communities a lot like this one. Our very first stores were in the Sierras, and small mountain and foothill towns are core to who we are. Over those 7 years, we've built demonstrable industry leadership and expertise. We operate 17 stores across the state today, with 4 more in construction, each earned through public processes and years of proving ourselves to skeptical communities. Third, we are secure and compliant, both on paper and in practice. Our security and compliance systems have been forged and tested through years of live operations, and we're a meaningful partner to law enforcement everywhere we operate. If we're given the opportunity, we are ready to quickly execute to begin delivering the benefits we've outlined. And finally, we approached Sutter Creek the way we approached every community, which was transparently and collaboratively, working closely with city staff to bring you a complete compliant project you can consider in its totality tonight. With that, I'm pleased to hand it over to our CEO, Lauren.
Thank you, Josh. Oh, I am not that tall. And good evening, commissioners and community. As Josh mentioned, I'm Lauren Carpenter. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Embark. I want to spend a moment on what a proven I'm so sorry. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. On what a proven operator actually means in practice, because I think it's the foundation of everything you'll see and hear from us tonight. Our operations are governed by more than 450 pages of standard operating procedures, covering everything from age verification and inventory reconciliation to opening and closing protocols. We use compliance auditing software to audit ourselves continuously before any regulator needs to. We hire locally, and every one of our stores operates under a collective bargaining agreement with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. That means living wages, real benefits, and career pathways for Sutter Creek and Amador County residents. And this all translates into performance. We generate more revenue per square foot than some of the nation's leading retailers. That matters to you because revenue is the engine behind the municipal dollars and community investment we'll discuss. In short, we are a proven multi-market operator, and we've solved the operational challenges of this industry many times over. Next slide, please. We're also not new to this part of California. We've deliberately built our brand in Northern California. In South Lake Tahoe, our very first store, we quickly became one of the city's top 25 sales tax producers. You can see us on that list right alongside household names like Safeway and CVS. We opened Sacramento's first equity-backed cannabis dispensary in partnership with the city's equity program, and in communities like Woodland and Tracy, our operations have become community cornerstones. The through line is this: we know how to open thoughtfully, operate responsibly, and become a valued local business, especially in smaller communities where trust can be earned block by block. Next slide, please. Now to community benefits. There's a lot, and I didn't realize it was going to be this small, so I'll try and just sort of summarize and explain what's on this slide. Our model here is simple. We will pay an 8% fee on gross receipts to the city, and on top of that, we will voluntarily contribute an additional 1% of gross receipts to a local community investment fund directed by a volunteer community advisory board made up of local residents. In the first year of operations, we estimate that the 8% fee will generate approximately $600,000 for the city, and the 1% would deliver an additional $60,000 in direct investment into local nonprofits and community priorities. When you also factor in employee wages, benefits, and our volunteerism program, this project represents millions of dollars invested in Sutter Creek over the first 5 years if we're given the opportunity to operate. And I want to be clear, this is not a structure that we've invented to win approval here. We operate with a 1% community give back program in every community where we operate today. And this model has delivered roughly $3 million in direct community investment in the communities we serve today. Next slide, please. Turning to the site itself, because we did not choose this location casually. 11 Ridge Road was thoroughly vetted and is fully compliant with municipal and state siting requirements. It sits along the Sutter Hill Business Corridor, where a well-run retail anchor has demonstrated potential to drive traffic and strengthen the surrounding commercial area. It maximizes public health and safety, appropriately situated relative to sensitive uses, and with the visibility and access that make a site easier to secure, not harder. It is also appropriately accessible, which matters for the revenue generation and community investment I just described. And we've engaged extensively to understand the potential of this site and how our investment in this building can be a catalyst, not just a tenant. Next slide, please. Here, it kind of at a high level is our plan for the building. And I know staff already went through this, but this is an existing commercial structure requiring no new construction. Our exterior approach is a light touch that respects the existing character of the area and the building, a fresh coat of paint and new branded signage consistent with the previous use. Several of the improvements here, or you see here, are security driven by design. We often say that we want our stores to function as a fortress, but look like a palace, in that so much of what we build is intended to not necessarily be visible to the naked eye. We're removing the external ATM, which eliminates a potential vulnerability on the building's exterior. We're installing planter boxes that provide what security professionals call territorial reinforcement, defining the space while beautifying it. We're frosting the windows between the sales floor and the exterior so product is never visible from the outside of the building. And behind the walls, we're making significant investments in security infrastructure that will be largely invisible to passerby. The result is a building that
2
will
minutes remaining.
Whew, okay, I'm sweating. The result is a building that will look better the day we open than it does today, while being dramatically more secure. Next slide, please, and I will talk so fast. I won't walk through every element on this slide, especially because I've got a shot clock, but I do want you to understand our security philosophy is layers. No single measure carries the load, but they do reinforce one another. It starts with CPTED, or crime prevention through environmental design, an approach with territorial reinforcement, which I'll touch on more in a moment if I don't run out of breath. Then physical hardening, a UL listed alarm, a secure product vault with sensors, and a fire code compliant 5-point door, 5-point locks, access controls, panic buttons, and so much more. Then people, 24-hour security through a combination of uniformed on-site guards, PPSO certified managers, live off-site monitoring, and private patrols. Cash minimalization, we are fully banked. We accept electronic payment to reduce the amount of cash on site, and we have armored currency pickups. Next slide, please. This slide shows how those security principles shape the actual customer experience from the moment someone arrives to the moment they leave. Every customer is greeted at a locked front entrance where their age and identification are verified before they go anywhere near product. Exterior security patrols support that front door. They're then guided
Keep going.
verification. Every product is tracked through the state metric system, and because we're fully banked, cash on site. At the exit, there will be shopping bags, security presence, catering, dozens of surveillance cameras covering the bank. Next slide, please. So to bring this all together, she would like to, that's.
Okay.
I can just shout.
Well, but you can't.
They
you
can't
know,
hear it online.
Online.
There you go.
There we go.
I got 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Okay, my hands are up. So to bring this all together, I am very proud of the work our team has done over nearly a decade to become a proven and trusted operator with deep roots in Sutter Creek and communities like this one. A thoroughly vetted site on the Sutter Hill corridor, a set of improvements that will enhance the property and neighborhood, a layered tested security program, and a community benefits commitment that is funded, structured, and already proven across the state. We built this company in small Northern California towns because we love them and we understand the responsibility that comes with operating in one. We know that our reputation here will be earned in person every day, and we welcome that. Finally, you can't see it, but there's contact information for the three of us on this slide. I'm happy to give it out to everyone here. We welcome the opportunity to continue to engage in dialogue with all of you. We respectfully request you approve the package before you tonight. I can't wait to answer questions, and I promise I will slow down when I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the public comment, but before I begin, I'd like to lay out some ground rules. Can I first have a show of hands of who would like to talk? Hold them up. I need a count. Not too bad. Okay. Yeah. That's so hard. It's 16 into 60. We're going to, you put your hands down now. We are opening it up. We'll have a public comment that will last no more than an hour. So considering the amount of hands I did see raised, we'll limit individual speakers talking to 5 minutes. So no more than 5 minutes, please. If you do agree with a comment at the end, you can say aye. We don't need booing, clapping. We would like to hear everyone's opinion, and I do want to keep it a respectful environment. I do know this is a very hot topic, and us commissioners have been doing a lot of research into this. So if you can't finish in 5 minutes,
Now,
No,
we're,
you cannot do that.
we discussed this ahead of time. It gets a bit too complex.
And also just a reminder, when you get up there, look down and make sure that the green light on the microphone is on. We do have people online who, when the mic is not on, cannot hear what we're saying here. So, and if it turns off, just push the button a couple times and it looks like it's turning back on. So.
All right. So first speaker, would anyone like to commence? All right. You will be given a 1 minute warning. Yep. All right. Okay. And when you do start, please say your name and where you're from, or doesn't matter. Don't? All right.
Okay, ready? All right, good evening. My name is Lisa Farrar, and I'm a teacher at our local continuation high school. I want to begin by saying that I understand cannabis is legal for adults in California, and I recognize that licensed dispensaries operate under strict regulations. My comments are not about whether cannabis should be legal. My concern is whether this is an appropriate county for this type of business. Every day I work with students who are overcoming significant challenges. Many are working to improve attendance, make better decisions, recover from difficult life circumstances, or avoid influences of drugs and alcohol. As educators, we spend countless hours helping these people build healthier futures. The local organization Substance Solutions for Amador Youth Coalition, also known as SAY, works in collaboration with community members to support the reduction and prevention of alcohol and marijuana use in teens in Amador County. The SAY youth group is called Voices of Youth, and they are also advocating for the reduction and prevention of alcohol and marijuana use amongst their peers. I think it is important for you to ask yourselves what message this sends to our youth. Does it tell them that the adults in this community are willing to invest in prevention and support, or does it tell them that revenue and convenience take priority? Our students pay close attention to the choices adults make, and community decisions communicate community values. Approving a cannabis dispensary within walking distance is less than a mile of our continuation high school sends a message that conflicts with our prevention efforts. While I know licensed dispensaries are prohibited from selling to minors, we also know that youth obtain cannabis through adults who are legally able to purchase it. We cannot control every individual choice, but we can make thoughtful decisions about whether a business joins our community. Our community has already experienced firsthand that age restrictions alone are not always enough. We previously had the nearby vape store, which our students walked to, and were sold products from that illegally sold products to students. This business was eventually shut down and the owner was arrested. While I am not suggesting a licensed dispensary would behave the same way, that experience reminds us that enforcement is not a perfect safeguard and that our students deserve every reasonable layer of protection. I would ask the commission to consider whether this location is truly compatible with a school serving some of our community's most vulnerable youth. How exactly does this decision, support the community's commitment to youth health, prevention, and education? If approved, is Cedar Creek going to use any of the money received from this business toward the youth of Amador County? And how, based on some of the information I've received already? As a teacher, I know I cannot control every decision my students make, but as a community, we can decide what message we send and what environment we create for them. In a little over a month, I'll be back in my classroom working with these students, and I hope you'll keep them in mind as you make your decision tonight. Thank you for your time and your service to our town.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Sign-in sheet, no. My name is Robert Allen, and I'm here to urge you to open a cannabis dispensary in Cedar Creek. To me, all revolves around compassion. And there's a lot of people that use cannabis, and I've gone to multi-dispensaries, and these aren't dope fiends that are out there buying pot. These are old people, poor people, people with injuries, such as myself. And I think it would be a good thing for Cedar Creek to do to help out the whole community, because San Andreas and Placerville are too far away. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Good afternoon, I'm Brian Combs, Sutter Creek. I urge you to reject the dispensary application, the proposed ordinance changes, and other recommendations put before you by city staff today. The dispensary application before you is for a business currently illegal in Sutter Creek, not to mention the whole of Amador County and over half the cities and towns throughout the state. You have an opportunity to keep it that way. A dispensary will advance the cultural degradation of our city, the jewel of Mother Lode. I'm not a fan of stoner culture. Assertions and decisions by city staff, the dispensary is not a threat to public health and safety, are disingenuous. They openly ignore a large body of evidence that has been submitted to you by myself and others in your agenda materials. The CEQA exemption is clearly an error for reasons detailed by the Amador County, 3 letters from the county saying why it's not appropriate. The development agreement is also omitted by the city staff as a way to avoid a citizen vote for a new tax required by the California Constitution. That 8% tax and 1% are both taxes paid by applicants' customers. New taxes under the California Constitution require a vote of the people, something denied to us in this process. You don't have a vote even from the city council for the tax, yet a recommendation from the city staff. The conditional use permit and site plan simply ignore health and safety impacts. It's selling, check this, $42 million of high potency THC products in our city and the county. All right. That is a lot of pot. All right. You have received a high volume of evidence from me and others that this is a real problem. Getting there. Sorry. 24 of 58 counties and dispensaries in California, 59% of the counties here ban recreation. Only 20, banned 59% counties ban recreational dispensaries. Only 161 of 482 cities permit dispensaries. Why are we in a hurry to join that minority? The bulk of this state doesn't want this stuff in their town. All right. How bad do we need the revenue? A couple of weeks ago, Tom here said, hey, our budget's in bad shape, solid and budget surplus. So why do we need a dispensary? Why do we have to depend on drug profit money to run the city? Are there no other ways to raise revenue that don't depend on promoting drug use in the county? And believe me, Embark promotes drug use. Find your high, discover your high. Let's destigmatize the product. All right. Stone to the bone. And a bunch, I got a packet of some of the things they do. They advertise, get high as part of their thing. Response boost, yeah, but it's all about getting loaded, okay? The threats to Manamort County use have been addressed pretty well. I'll probably skip over that. But the applicant's 5-year plan is clear, $42 million of products in our community over. Have you ever figured out how much pot that is? It's like 7 tons of dope, 7 containers, of 20, 40-foot containers. That is a lot of pot. And the school districts are going to come out and probably tell you it's bad. The last person just did that. What other product in Sutter Creek requires a youth safety education program? Applicant himself, in essence, is admitting that TT is really bad for kids. And that's why they have a gratuitous youth education program. But turn around a little later, hey man, it's okay. Come into our store because it's cool, right? Okay, teens get quickly cynical when when you're young, something may be bad for you. But when you get a little older, come on in. We'll figure out how to discover your high, okay? Who in Sutter Creek wants this? Go back to the city council meetings. Look at who submitted letters. I went and did and counted. There's like, close to 100 letters submitted. 80 of them were against it. 20 of them were for it. And if you look at the public comments, the bulk are against this. So who in this county wants this? Who is willing to speak up?
1 minute remaining.
What? I'm almost done. And a review, okay, so we urge you not to turn drug profits to fund city needs. Protect Manamort County teens. Please reject this application and its supporting documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Are they the same as the letters that you? Letters. Okay.
Ready? Craig Lambert, 40 Nickerson. I went to Berkeley as well, but I'm not in favor of this proposal. One, what you make more accessible, you encourage. Behaviors you encourage, you get more of. And do we need more stoned and passive citizens? I don't think so. The pot shop is going to be less than a mile from a high school. Though restricted to people over 21, rest assured it will find its way into the hands of our youth. You will bring in to the area more people who are interested in drugs and probably bringing other kinds of drugs to the area, which is not for the general welfare. Though called a 1-year pilot program, the Camel's Nose will be under the tent, soon spreading to other local towns. So it'll be county-wide within maybe 5 years. Oversight. Show me a government program which promised oversight that actually stopped abuses. Using drug money to fund drug programs is ironic, to say the least. THC was like 8% back in the day, back in the 70s, 60s. Now they're able to get it up to 80% or higher. It's much stronger. And finally, if selling drugs to help the city with finances seems ethical, why not encourage OnlyFans within the city limits as well, if it's only about a profitable business? Thank you.
Good evening, Martin Ryan, Sutter Creek, retired Amador County Sheriff. I am going to yield my time to Glenn Spitzer from the County of Amador to address the CEQA issue.
Sorry, we don't,
We're not yielding time.
let's let Derek explain that.
So yeah, you can't yield time. You get 5 minutes. If both of you want to speak, one of you can speak for 5 minutes, the other, but you can't give time to each other.
How about if we're standing up here together? And
For 5 minutes, the other needs to speak for 5 minutes.
okay. Alternatively, multiple people can do it for me, but I'll just go right ahead. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm the General Services Director for the county. The county opposes this project, unanimously opposed it, directed me to write a letter and also to speak here. I drafted 3 letters. The first one really spoke to all of the ailments of marijuana. And we're in a unique time. And we're in a unique time because we finally have the data. And it's really just this year that we have the data that shows that marijuana is extremely harmful, and I mean, particularly to our kids. And that's really what I hit on that first letter. The second letter, I just addressed legal issues. I know Embark responded. My plan is to respond in a letter. Don't want to address legal issues here. I don't think their legal arguments hold water, but I'll address that in a letter, and that'll go before City Council. And the main thing I want to address is really truth. What is the truth about marijuana? We've been lied to for decades about what the effects of marijuana are, and we've seen this historically. We saw this with cocaine. We saw this with morphine. We saw this with tobacco. Most people don't understand the history of how this plays out. Cocaine, for example. Cocaine, like morphine, were pitched as the wonder drugs. The doctors were praising it, telling everybody, you've got to take this. This will solve all your ailments. In 1887, the Surgeon General recommended cocaine for depression and said there was, quote, no such thing as cocaine addiction. And it was only until the 1920s or so, the early 20th century, that we learned, oh, cocaine is extremely harmful, extremely addictive. And the leaders stepped up and put a stop to it. And the same thing with morphine in the late 19th century. It took leaders to step up and say, whoa, the data's in. We got to stop this. And that's what we've got right now with these studies that I put in that first letter. The data is in, and we need to address it. And I wanted to go over the data really briefly, just so the public understands what the harms are. There's particularly the first study I wanted to go, which was a 2026 study, and it showed that the commercialization of weed, not the legalization, the commercialization, putting a dispensary in town is what exploded the use. For adolescents, the use increased 346%. And why? It's illegal for adolescents. It's because adolescents just get their older siblings or their friends, or now with social media, hey, I'll give you $5, go buy this. It's right down the street. The issue is convenience. It's human nature. This is common sense. If it's convenient, use explodes. Embark says over $10 million in sales annually. And their whole argument is that people in Amador, in our 40,000 person county, our tiny county, we're spending $10 million outside the county. And we're making all these trips. And now we're going to spend all that money in the county. Come on. I mean, that just insults our intelligence. The truth is that the market is going to explode in Amador County. The people who aren't using are going to use. The people who are barely using are going to use a lot. And the people who are already using daily, they're going to abuse it. And that's really what's going to happen here. We all know that.
1 minute remaining.
That's how you get to 10 million. But some of these other tests or some of these other studies, comprehensive studies of following thousands of kids for years, showing we're doubling bipolar, doubling anxiety disorders. If they're regular users, you're quadrupling anxiety disorders. You are making it 5 times more likely for major depression. People love this one. If you're under 50 and you smoke marijuana regularly, you have a 6 times more likelihood of dying from a heart attack. I put all the studies in the record, and I encourage everybody to read those studies, particularly the European studies, because those studies show that the purported benefits are BS. The harms greatly outweigh the benefits, and there are drugs out there that are far less harmful and far more effective for
Your
like
time has
pain and all
expired.
these things. So That's general welfare position.
Thank you,
Uh,
Glenn.
Okay, you've got the ability to deny this, and that's what we expect of leaders.
Thank you.
Since I couldn't yield, I'm going to go ahead and read what I've written on this subject matter. Again, I'm Martin Ryan from Sutter Creek, retired Amador County Sheriff and 46 years in law enforcement. I'm strongly opposed to the city of Sutter Creek's consideration of amending the existing city ordinance to allow the creation of a marijuana dispensary within the city limits, which would be the only dispensary allowed in Amador County. My opposition is based upon my research and professional training and experience, which has produced the following proven facts concerning the alarming impacts of marijuana on our youth here in Sutter Creek and Amador County if this project is allowed. Fact: in the 1970s, marijuana psychoactive THC potency levels averaged 1 to 3%. Today, indoor cultivation and breeding have increased THC potency to 15 to 30%. And products like marijuana-based oils, waxes, and vapes can now contain THC at 50 to 90%. My internet search reveals that Embark sells marijuana concentrates and vapes at over 90% THC. Fact: while you must be 21 years of age to obtain a recreational marijuana card in California, 18 to 20-year-olds can purchase an online annual medical marijuana recommendation for under $100 after a brief online consultation with a doctor, which can be used immediately. Fact: medicinal marijuana recommendations in California do not set individual limits on THC potency, only the amount of product to meet the expressed medical need. Fact: the California Department of Cannabis Control, which regulates this industry, stated in 2024 that human brain activity develops until age 25, and that daily cannabis use, near daily cannabis use, or higher potency use has been linked to schizophrenia, depression, and suicide. In fact, San Diego County reported in 2022 that 43% of all suicides among persons aged 25 and under involve THC in their systems at the time of death. The California Auditor reported accidental ingestion of THC by infants and children resulted in significant increases in emergency room visits. Children under 5 were the most vulnerable, with emergency room ingestion cases increasing 1,477.7% from November of 2016 to 2023. The National Poison Control calls for children 0 to 12 years for THC edible exposure jumped 752% between 2018 and 2023. A fact: a 2021 report noted that 33% of fatal accidents in Mendocino County and 24% in Santa Cruz County involve positive tested marijuana drivers. Nationwide, a 2025 study by the American College of Surgeons noted that 40% of deceased drivers tested positive for active THC. A fact: a 2019 Addictions, Drug, and Alcohol Institute report stated that THC and CBD can react negatively with many common and critical prescription drugs by either magnifying or negating their intended effect. Examples include anti-anxiety, antidepressant, antipsychotic, and pain medications. The above facts clearly expose the significant threats that a marijuana dispensary in Sutter Creek presents to the youth of Sutter Creek and Amador County. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Hello, my name is Peter Gale. I'm a resident of Sutter Creek for 12 years, and I've been a high school teacher for 28 years. Prior to hearing from you, Mr. Spitzer, I had chosen to quote a few portions, short portions from his letter, that first letter that spoke to me, the letter dated June 3rd, because I have seen this happen in my own life with my son. He said on page 3, the American College of Neuropsychopharmacology followed over 11,000 children over 10 years. The study concluded that marijuana users had significant and potentially permanent deficiencies in working memory, processing speed, language, and other cognitive functions when compared to a control group that did not use marijuana. In effect, regular marijuana use by these hapless teens capped their development of critical cognitive functions necessary for basic survival, and it put kids at a severe disadvantage compared to non-users. My son was in Amador High School student who, yes, managed to get it from illegal sources and started his decline. In desperation, we sent him a year to a intensive residential therapy program in Utah to try to help him with his drug use, his pornography addiction, and his rampant anger that was typically a result of the drug use. Despite that, I am grateful that Amador County Schools and the continuation high school at Independence High, he graduated in 2019. The drug problems continued. He spent a year in juvie, and since then, his life has been rocky and difficult to say the least. He's no longer living with us. We tried twice to have him be in our home and to get his life straight for over a year. Finally, when he became too much of a toxic element to our home, we offered him a rehab and he took that opportunity, but we did not welcome him back. Currently, he is not functioning. He is not able to get a job. He claims nearly every time he bothers to answer the phone that he is feeling depressed and suicidal. And this is partially, if not completely, because of the drug access and drug use. In the next paragraph, he states, Science Direct in January of 2026 studied the anxiety, depression, and suicidal effects of marijuana on people ages 15 to 30. My son is 25 now, by the way. He was the class of 2019 of Independence High School. The results of the meta-analysis indicated an association between cannabis use and increased odds of developing depression in young adulthood, with a 28 to 53% increase in the likelihood of developing depression. Quote, the overall meta-analysis suggested that young cannabis consumers had significantly higher odds of developing anxiety. The study also showed a 50 to 64% increase in suicidal ideation and an 80 to 87% increase in suicidal attempts resulting from regular marijuana use. To wrap up and be short, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I try to do in my classroom, it's convenient that Gale rhymes with fail, is I like to admit when I get it wrong. And so I'll simply say that, Gale, fail, didn't work, let's try something else. Please don't fail Amador County. Say no to this proposal.
Hello, my name is Tom Calmes. I've been in this area for over 20 plus years. I actively participate in the car show we have every year here, Main Street. I've been at every single one of these restaurants on town. I currently sponsor a lot of people in the community, rodeos, Miss Rodeos, destruction derbies, a variety of things like that in nature. I've been operating dispensaries in Calaveras and Sonora since 2010. And I was there at the very beginning of each process. Calaveras, they opened up an application process with guidelines. They started it, people applied it, went from there. Sonora, they said they're going to allow it, kind of like what you guys are saying, but they're like, we're going to allow 2. And then they took in applications. And then they, out of the hundreds of applications, they broke it down to 2. I was fortunate to get one of them. It was interesting. Earlier, I heard you say that, it wasn't, first come, first serve, but kind of obviously is, because there was no application process open to anyone else. Because I personally inquired about it. I tried to get an application and was told I was not able to do so. They told me that possibly after this meeting I could do so. So it's interesting that there wouldn't be a process open to anybody else that might be a good candidate, because I'm already serving this community and have been since 2010. I currently in this area do $2 million in business with deliveries alone. So there's money here that you guys haven't been getting. Calaveras has been getting that taxes, and it's going to remain that way. Whether Embark comes in anyway, they might take a majority of my business, but I've been dealing with people for 16 years that personally know his first name, and a lot of people have my cell phone number text me. And so you might get some of it, but they won't get it all. But I mean, I think in fairness, should be open to other applications. Because public record shows that Embark has faced multiple legal disputes and permit appeals or controversial approval processes in several of California cities, including Covina, San Pedro, or Pablo, I'm sorry, Ventura, San Luis Obispo, and Fresno. Kind of like what's going on here with these backdoor deals, which if it was to be approved, there would be some sort of probably litigation to follow with other things for unfair practices. I just want to say, I mean, it's, obviously your guys' decision to allow it one way or another, but I believe you should open it up to other candidates instead of just choosing one for whatever reason without even a process that's available online, in person, or anything else. Because I offered to pay my $10,000 to get it, and I was told no. And on top of that too, as far as giving back to the community, I'll give more back than they will. I mean, I'll give 10% off plus 2. I mean, so, you know, if we're looking for money, I'll give you guys more. And you're already missing out anyway, and you're already gonna get, if I were to be allowed, or at least considered, or if you're allowed to, the business that I'm already doing would already go back into your guys' pocket instantly because I would be serving from this location than my other locations. But anyhow, we just wanna you know, ask. I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna be, you know, against it. I've seen that since 2010 in Calaveras, seen it in Sonora. Ultimately, it's coming. It's already here. I mean, I've been serving the community for, 16 years. Whether they allow a dispensary or not, business will continue. It'll be more convenient if there is for people, because a lot more people like to come in and actually see stuff than, order it over the phone and whatnot. But, I already have a long-term, relationship with this community. I'd like to keep that relationship with the community, and I'd like the opportunity to have a store if they're going to allow a store. Anyhow, that's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patricia Anjija. I am a resident of Amador County. As I've been following this issue, I've had so many different facets of it, develop thoughts in my own mind. So, I can see the perspectives on both sides. Wanting to have revenue from a product that is legal in this state, and regulating it. I can also see the drawbacks. I'm a mom myself of young kids, but I'm heavily involved in their lives, and, I don't think they'd be able to get it past me, but you would never know. Sometimes you don't. You can't be there 24/7. So I get the concerns there as well. As someone who is a product of alcoholic parents, it's interesting that there doesn't seem to be this sort of public outrage when, say, a gas station opens or a Safeway that sells alcohol, opens. Alcohol is very detrimental to, that's what my dad died from. He had blood poisoning 2 years ago, and he passed away from that. He was a veteran, and he was homeless a lot. So all of the programs and things and the good intentions may not necessarily come to fruition. That's where I'm battling it in my own mind of having the accessibility increases use. I was considering possibly, if one exists in the county, because I don't want to drive out to Calaveras, I have driving anxiety sometimes, possibly helping with my own anxiety, small dosage, that it would be, better if it were located here. But that kind of goes to their point of, I would consider starting using it. So it's interesting to consider both sides. And that's what I hope you guys are doing, not just, if you are passionate about it, of course, stick with your passions. But as, the commission, I would think you would want to consider both sides. I think opening it up to a vote would probably be the best thing for the public to really be heard about what their position is. And beside that, I know that I've patronized the CBD store, the Evergreen Emporium by Andrea Roberts, and seeing her perspective that she was never allowed to apply for this license because the zoning or the ordinances aren't allowing that type of shop, was really a disservice to local people who are already in the community, like the previous speaker. So I think that's also kind of cart before the horse, that if you are going to approve this, it's weird that you're approving it along with already having a business in mind and going to be doing this. I think it should be open up to everyone if they would like to do so. Another consideration, if you do approve this, that I think if you're allowed to limit the percentages, maybe, because I know that's in a bunch of the studies where it's the percentages. I know Supervisor Dan Upperson out of Ione, his wife works in Sutter Health as an ER nurse, and she has countless issues of THC, are, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. THC related psychosis come into her ER all the time. So I don't know if you could limit the percentages that are being able to sell to be more of the 1-2%.
1 minute remaining.
That people have cited as, you know, more of the tolerable amounts of THC. Just some perspectives, just in case you are leaning more on this side, because I would rather it be the safest possible if you do end up doing it, and just offering that perspective. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Hauk. I'm a resident of Sutter Creek. And I notice we recite the Pledge of Allegiance before every meeting. And in it, we acknowledge our allegiance to our nation when we say, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our coins still say, in God we trust. It's clear to me that even in today's world, we continue to acknowledge a higher authority over us to help us guide us into making good and moral decisions and just decisions in our daily lives and in our governing authorities. I'm thankful we can come here and discuss the pros and cons of placing a full retail recreational cannabis dispensary in Sutter Creek, the first one in all of Amador County. The City Council of Sutter Creek has a serious decision to make, one that will affect the health and well-being of the city and entire county for years to come. In terms of health, bringing in high-potency recreational marijuana presents an assortment of problems for our youth, our families, our schools, our law enforcement, and so forth. In terms of well-being, it can bring in money for fixing potholes and addressing other city financial needs. But the source of the money in this case comes from selling high-potency THC marijuana, mind-altering products. In order to make this all happen, there are numerous things that need to be addressed, which will take money, time, and planning. The Bible doesn't speak directly about the use of drugs, but it says plenty about being intoxicated from alcohol. The Bible strictly warns against becoming intoxicated and calls drunkenness a sin. Intoxication ruins your self-control and clear thinking, which is why our police departments are still seeking new ways to determine DUIs for stoned drivers under the influence of marijuana. I'd like you to consider some recent news from the AAMC. The AAMC is the Association of American Medical Colleges. It's been around for 150 years and says this: cannabis use in the US has nearly doubled in the past decade, just in 10 years, with individuals 12 years and older. Imagine that, all the way down to 12. Increased cannabis use, along with increased potency, has resulted in an enormous spike in ED or ER visits for CHS. This is kind of new, which stands for cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. This is a new problem, or a recent problem. Since 2016, there has been a 500% increase in ER hospital visits treating problems like CHS, affecting all ages from teenagers to 60 and 70-year-olds. CHS is characterized by excruciating abdominal pain and repeated bouts of vomiting that can last from 24 to 48 hours. In rare cases, it causes heart rhythm problems, seizures, kidney failure, and even death. It typically recurs weeks or months later in susceptible people and often requires admission to the hospital. You've heard the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I say,
remaining.
but I say for our city, if it ain't broke, don't break it. Our city's not broken yet, but it could be. We live in a beautiful community full of wonderful people and a lot of retirees. I'm sure we can come up with other ways to raise money for our city and county without resorting to selling mind-altering, addictive, and intoxicating marijuana drugs. I believe that choosing to not put in a high-potency cannabis dispensary would be in all of our best interests. And I also believe that that choice would please God, our highest authority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
How y'all doing? Pete Jensen, Sutter Creek, been here for about 35 years. Fact, this is 2026. Question, how many of you people here, you all look like older 70s and stuff like that, like me, old people? How many of you got your drug education from Reefer Madness that you watched in high school? The THC, the levels, the high levels, it's just like alcohol. You got 151 rum, vodka, stuff like that. Do you drink a whole glass of it when you order something like that? Or do you drink like wine? Have a little sip. That's what you do when the potency of the marijuana is higher. You smoke less. I can pick up this phone right now and I can call Green Gold over there in San Andreas. They make approximately 10, from what I understand, 10 deliveries a day in this area. So what are we going to do? We're going to not do it? The stuff's still coming in. You can grow 6 plants legally in Sutter Creek. So this mind altering stuff that the kids are going to die and all this sort of stuff, not they're going to die, but psychosis.
Sorry, could you speak in the mic a little bit more? People
Okay.
can't quite hear you.
Psychosis and all that sort of stuff. I understand that, but that happens with alcohol too. So if you want to really not be a hypocrite, then we need to eliminate all the wine and the alcohol in Sutter Creek. What's that going to do to us?
Thank you, everybody. My name is Josh Niddle. I'm a local business owner. My wife and I have already invested in Sutter Creek. We own the building that is adjacent, shares a parking lot with the proposed location. We live in Sutter Creek. We've raised our kids in Sutter Creek. I'm a former Little League coach to Josh Lewis over there with Embark. Good to see you, Josh. I'm a veteran who served 10 years in the Army. All of this is just to say I'm a normal citizen of Sutter Creek. I'm a normal person. But Sutter Creek is not normal. It is special. If you've lived anywhere else in California, you know that we have something that's unlike most of our state. So I want to pause for a second and thank each and every one of you that is back here, because you've already stand up and given your time and talents to help protect our community. You've already made smart decisions that have made this such a special place and is recognized in magazines across the country. So thank you. I also want you to remember that over the last 175 years, there are other citizens like me, like you, who had to sit in these seats and make hard decisions. I think you're faced with another hard one for our community. But I want to come forth and say that I am not in support of adding a dispensary to our charming, awesome little town. I do not know how this makes our community better. How does this make us a place where people want to raise their kids and grandkids? And how does it make those kids safer? Is it legal? Yes. Will it pay city revenue? Yes. I am in the financial industry. Those projections might not work out the way the city thinks, but at what cost? So I just ask you to think as you make this tough decision, and I thank you for you being in that seat. What are the costs and what is it that makes Sutter Creek special? Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Susan Ross. I'm a resident of Sutter Creek, retired teacher. And I do want to say that I am in favor of a cannabis dispensary because several reasons, but one of the reasons is because it would be disingenuous and discriminatory since our county and our city has based its entire economy on wine and alcohol to tourists. So that is the basis of our economy. So to discriminate against another legal business that sells a substance is really telling. And like some that spoke before me, you know, why aren't we in front of Safeway, making sure that there aren't over 21-year-olds buying vodka and whiskey and giving it to teenagers? I mean, it's all relative. And I also want to say that my husband and I and many members of my family use cannabis medically, and I find it very effective. And I have a friend who uses it to reduce her seizures, where regular medicine has not been helpful. But I mentioned this all before last time, but I want to read a letter from Chris Garcia, a Sutter Creek resident who could not be here tonight. And he said, "I'm writing you today in support of allowing cannabis dispensaries in Sutter Creek. I'm actually shocked that this has not been approved years ago. Recreational cannabis is legal in California, and yet Calaveras County is taking all of our tax money because they have been too slow to approve something so benign. We collect taxes off liquor sales, and yet every medical study has proven alcohol is far more dangerous and unhealthy for a community than legally regulated cannabis. Many of our citizens use cannabis for stress, pain relief, and sleep disorders, and cannabis options are far safer than prescription drugs from our often hard-to-access medical industry. Keeping dispensaries out of Sutter Creek won't keep our citizens from buying and consuming cannabis, but it will allow neighboring communities to continue collecting our tax revenue. Please make the fiscally conservative decision and allow dispensaries in Sutter Creek. Regards, Chris Garcia, Sutter Creek resident. Thank you."
Thank you. I know.
Hi, Al Beers, Sutter Creek, and another Cal guy who's not in favor of this proposition. Also 31 years law enforcement, City of Berkeley. Headed the homicide detail, headed the vice detail, headed property crimes, and you cannot suggest that this is not going to have an impact potentially in all of those areas. 2 days ago, I decided to do an exercise. I put the phrase negative health effects. Okay, it's on. The negative effects of THC for minors and young adults into Google. I got a lot of information. And I'm listing some of these, and some other people have covered them, so I'm going to try to make some of these comments short. The Center for Disease Control has completed studies that show that THC affects the brain function and brain development, and warns that such usage can contribute to anxiety, depression, and schizophrenia, especially in users under the age of 25. Sheriff Ryan mentioned the increase in accidents. There was a study done in Colorado where there was 133% increase of people who showed signs of marijuana use, and these were people who were deceased from the accidents. National Institute of Drug Abuse has studies that show that 3 in 10 cannabis users form a cannabis use disorder, which is addiction. That's 3 in 10. In 2021, nearly 5 million young adults aged 18 to 25 and 1.3 million adolescents aged 12 to 17 had a diagnosable marijuana use disorder. There's an organization called SAMHSA, which is a health organization, and in its studies has shown that uses of THC during pregnancy are linked with fetal growth restriction, premature births, and impact children's cognitive development. So in 2016, California legalized the recreational use of marijuana. while also allowing individual counties and cities to have outright bans. Every city in the county, every incorporated city in the county, including this city, voted to ban it, as well as the county. So here we are in 2026, discussing a development agreement to allow retail cannabis store in Cedar Creek. What has changed? Have all these studies changed? The single thing that has changed, a single thing has changed. A retailer has come to town and is offering to throw a lot of money at the city to cloud the issue that marijuana is not something that is unacceptable to our community. I know that's a double negative, but it's for impact. So it's decision time. Do we as a city chase the money, or we do what is right for health, safety, and welfare of our city, particularly for the youth and younger adults, and just say no? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Suzanne Hauk, and I and my husband, Ron, have lived in Sutter Creek for 10 years. And there's already been a lot covered that I was going to mention because I really wanted to hammer home some things that we've already shared at some of the city council meetings, but it's already been shared. I just wanted to mention a couple points. One is that I am not against people not requiring, but wanting the benefit of having, thank you, medicinal marijuana for their conditions. I'm not against that at all. I have a brother who's a paraplegic and he suffers seizures and he does use it at night to calm his legs down. I'm not against that. But the thing is in our small community of people that need medicinal marijuana, it's a very, very small percentage compared to, who turned me off?
No, you're on.
It's not, it's green, but it's not on.
No, we can hear you.
It's on. Okay. So compared to bringing in a dispensary that's going to, I care about the youth. That's my main thing is, and the youth are they're going to get access to this. The dispensary, it doesn't matter that they have a 21-year-old law against buying it. They're going to get plenty of, as I've heard, plugs, and that plugs would be people that are family members that are going to buy it, or they're going to be people on the street selling it that have bought it at the dispensary, and they're going to sell it to the kids at a higher rate. They're going to get it. They're going to get it no matter what, and they're going to get a lot of it because that's what's going to happen if it comes to town. And somebody just mentioned how once it's here, the use is going to just go up and up and up rather than remain maybe a problem right now. The other thing is, I could share this. I just don't want to reiterate things that have been shared, but the dispensary is going to draw customers not only from Amador County cities, but from neighboring cities and travelers passing through on Ridge Road. The proposed location for this dispensary is an intersection that is already very congested, especially at certain times of the day. With Embark's proposed income for the first year and through year 5, their daily sales that they've proposed will flood the intersection and the parking lot with traffic continually on a daily basis. It will not be able to handle the traffic. That is sure to be a huge problem. In all of this, there will be more impaired driving, distracted drivers, accidents, a great deal more foot traffic, and our small police department will not be able to sustain itself with all of these new challenges. And also, as mentioned before, it's within walking distance of the high school and the junior high, Independence High. And I'm going to bypass this that I was going to share. Something that was mentioned, the gentleman who shared about your son. We have a son that experienced a lot of drug use during his teenage years. And we had a lot of rage and psychosis at home, where sometimes we'd have to call the police to have them intervene so we could calm it down. Never got him arrested. But anyway, he moved away from home, and then we invited him back home for about 8 months to live with conditions, and one was that there be no drug use. And the entire time he lived with us for 8 months, he was using very high potency THC. He was vaping it, unbeknownst to us until I found the vials. And it just answered a lot of questions because he was psychotic. He had rage. He was, throwing his computer screens. He was trying to fight my husband. And
1 minute remaining.
And so we've had personal experience, and I would not wish it on anybody, as you know. We know that high potency THC, it's not like what my husband and I smoked back in the 60s. This is deadly. What's that? It's not Woodstock, is right. So somebody already shared about the potency, the numbers, and this is not, this drug is deadly, and it's a very, very bad idea to bring it to our community. I also was going to talk about the edibles that, did you say I have 1 minute?
19 seconds.
Oh, 19 seconds. So many reasons I'd like to, more reasons, but please consider all of those who have shared our deep concerns over these last many months with proven facts, and that voting yes will be a highly regrettable decision for our beautiful little community. Do not vote yes for Embark, and thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mela Swift Burgess, Sutter Creek. I'm a certified public accountant and I own a business across the street from the proposed location. And I am against accepting this. However, I just wanted to, as an accountant, put out the numbers. You heard from the San Andreas owner. He said there's $2 million in revenue he's generating from this area. That is well below the 7 to 10 million Embark is saying. Also, the city of Sutter Creek, our sales tax rate is 8.75%. San Andreas sales tax rate is 8.25%. I'm not a marijuana user. If I was, though, I would be going to the cheaper option of 8.25%. I'm not sure about the additional numbers and what they pay extra over there. But he already delivers in this area. He already has customers in this area. Also, just so the community is aware, my father is also Jim Swift on the city council, and he owns the building where I run my business. And I do believe that he would not be allowed to vote if this went to city council. So it would be 4 people deciding for the whole county, because I'm pretty sure he would have to recuse himself because he's within probably 500 feet of the building. And that's it.
Thanks, Mela.
Thank you. All right. Anyone not spoken?
Good evening, members. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us and to hear all of these very important comments. So my name is Stacy Tyler, and I represent the concerned citizens of Sutter Creek who are against the marijuana dispensary. Now, the first thing, I'm going to talk primarily about the legal issues here today because I think most of everything else was covered by other folks here. This is a sales tax. You can call it by any other name. But when you are saying 2%, and then I'm going to take 8%, and that's what the city is proposing, folks, it's a 10% grab. Okay, there's a lot of money involved there. So you can call it something else, and they've called it a development agreement. But the way this thing works is like no other development agreement. They're calling it an agreement, but it's a straight up 10% money grab. And some other folks have touched on that here today, and how what they're doing is basically selling out the interests of the public in exchange for those dollars. So you can call it what you want, but if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I can tell you that what I'm wearing today is a gorgeous ball gown, but you can look at it and your common sense tells you what it is. So I can call it whatever I want, but that doesn't change what it is. The so-called development agreement is not a development agreement, it's a tax. And it's a tax that has not been approved by the voters, and it's a violation of the Constitution. Second, we have standing to address this issue. Now, Embark's attorneys, because they have very expensive attorneys because they've got really deep pockets, right? So Embark's attorneys have said the county doesn't have standing. We heard from the county representative today. The county is extremely concerned about this and for very good reasons. And that's why the county unanimously opposes this. But Embark tries to say, no, you guys don't have standing. Well, fine, that's not our problem. Maybe the county does, maybe the county doesn't. But what I know is that the Sutter Creek residents do, and that's who I'm standing for today. They do have standing to challenge it. And I guarantee you, if you make the wrong decision today, they will in court. The project is not exempt from CEQA. Okay? The existing facilities exemption, and I know for some folks in the public, this just sounds like some legal gobbledygook, but I guarantee you that the dispensary's attorneys know what I'm talking about, and the council members here know what I'm talking about, or the board members know what I'm talking about. The existing facilities exemption does not apply here because we are talking about a significant increase in the use of the site, both in the nature of the use. You're going from a bank to a controlled substance dispensary, okay? And you are also talking about a significant increase in the person traffic. You're talking about a few customers going into banks, and how often do folks go into the bank these days? Most of us online bank, versus a huge number of people going in daily for transactions to purchase a controlled substance. The common sense exemption is not applicable either, because there is no way that this city can say with certainty, and that's what the law requires, with certainty, that there is, quote, no possibility of no significant impact to 1, public health, 2, public services, and 3, traffic. There is just no way, even from a common sense perspective, ladies and gentlemen, not even from a common sense perspective, could you say with a certainty there's no possibility of significant increases in that? That's just not reasonable. But on top of that, you've been given scores of reports that tell you otherwise. You've heard from experts at the city, at the county, whose very job it is to deal with transportation, the effects on transportation, and they're telling you there will be an impact, a significant impact, a negative impact. But even if it were exempt, let's pretend the exemption applies. There are unusual circumstances here that would prevent the use of the categorical
1
exemption.
minute remaining.
And what is that? Well, we know exactly why. This is, talk about an unusual circumstance, first of its kind. I think that qualifies as unusual. This would be the first, the only, and the most unfortunate cannabis dispensary, let's call it what it is, marijuana controlled substance drug dispensary in the county. Now, I'm going to take the little bit of time I have left here to just speak a bit from the heart. You hear me speak as an attorney, but believe it or not, we're people too. And what I hear today here, I heard a courageous mother tell you that she is very, very concerned about the effects, that she saw her father suffer from the impacts of alcoholism. She is very, very concerned about what's going to happen. We heard several people who went to UC Berkeley. They should be rooting for this, right? Okay, I'm a UC Berkeley grad myself. We are not rooting for it. You heard from Mr. Gale, who I believe has left the room. He is a 25-year teacher, and now he serves in other capacities to serve our community. He has also told you his personal experience with it, and he is warning you against it and begging you to
Your
make the
time
right
has
choice.
expired.
Thank you. I just want to direct my attention to the other folks who have shared their personal experience and told you today what
Thank
they
you,
have
Stacey.
experienced. Thank you so much. Please make the right decision. Protect our citizens. Vote
you.
no.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? All right, at this time, I'm going to close the public comment. All right,
It's not closed. There's
yeah,
5-minute rebuttal.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Well, could we just take a quick 2-minute, as my children say, potty break? Just need a water. 3 weeks max. Yeah. Yeah, his his parents are gonna help him. He's actually went camping this evening, so it's dropping the kids off at his parents. I get a great stuff. Fun. He's off for next month, so you can't hear. It's actually with
I ate ahead of time knowing this was gonna be within.
Yeah. Hiking up. 30. I think it's a 30. Yeah. 40 odd miles. How you doing? I was hoping I should have flew out yesterday. I'm saying I should have flown out yesterday.
Flown out yesterday?
Yes.
But not be here.
Yes.
Gosh darn it.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm still just as torn, which I don't think will be wise saying. You call it 30 seconds to bring everyone back.
Let me grab one, right over there, I'll be right back.
By the way, should everybody know?
In 30 seconds, the meeting will reconvene. 30. 30.
Yeah, I got mine.
Knows that it's possible.
All right, guys, stop bringing it in, please. Time is up.
Yes, ma'am. I don't really have notes. I'm a little all over the place.
All right, I'm a nerd, so I put yellow all the way. No.
Gotta be. The question. Attorney Law.
Okay. I'm gonna have a quick drink.
I hope I were to intern. Don't let it go to his head, y'all.
All right, thank you for everyone's patience. I invite the applicant back for a 5-minute rebuttal, after which time it will be open to the council here to discuss, and we will, potentially be asking individuals to elaborate or questions. But at which time, unless invited, there will be no more public comment. So I just want to reiterate that. All right, Embark, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And genuinely, we appreciate the feedback from the community. Josh has been engaged in conversation with this community for many months on this project. So I want you to know sincerely, we listen to all of it. Because we too are people, right? We're parents, we're friends, we're neighbors. And so we care deeply about the communities we call home. And for Josh, this community is the community that raised him. We are not here to try this issue in court today. And so that is not what I'm going to, I don't like thinking of this as a rebuttal, but that is not what I'm going to use this time for. I am not a lawyer. And so I don't think that would be productive. What I can say factually is that DAs have been used in many other communities for cannabis projects. So this is not new. It is not novel. CEQA exemption is commonplace for these projects statewide. This is not new. This is not novel. And your city staff has analyzed this extensively, as evidenced by the package they've put before you and all of the work it took to get to this moment. And they have supported this approach. So I do just want to address the efforts to create uncertainty around the decision that is being brought before you tonight.
But I also want to set that aside because I don't think how you connect and build a bridge with people is through technical gobbledygook. And how you do that is through conversations with community. And so I want to be really clear that in many ways, we actually have a lot of common beliefs, not a lot of differences. We absolutely and unequivocally believe that youth should not have access to cannabis. And that's why I'm really proud that we have a track record of supporting that work. Two things can be true at the same time. You can be a responsible cannabis business operator, and you can believe and support efforts to protect youth from accessing cannabis. And two things can be true at the same time. This community and this community's youth are accessing cannabis. And this community, including your friends, your peers, and your neighbors, are accessing cannabis, as evidenced by the fact that a regional operator has come here tonight to tell you just that. What I don't want to do tonight is to dismiss your fears. That is not appropriate, and that is not the spirit or the intent in which we've approached this project from day one here. We are always open, willing, and receptive to have these conversations. I am not using this time to bring forward studies. The fact of the matter is, for every study that says something negative about cannabis, there is also a study that has found something positive about medicinal value, about actually increasing neighboring property values, about reducing crime, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I do not here or ever want to get into a tit for tat with any of you. That is not the spirit by which we are approaching this. I want you to know that sincerely. We take your concerns seriously. That's why we have been present and engaging with many of you about this project. That's why we are happy to do that for the lifetime of this business if selected to operate locally. Many, many residents have expressed to us their support for this project, many of them. And as I'm sure you can see, there are a lot of feelings and emotions about this project, which makes it harder for them to feel comfortable coming forward. But them not coming forward with the same level of package and preparedness, which I am not criticizing, does not mean that they do not exist. The average customer in an Embark store is 45 years old. This is not like, I think sometimes we have a preconceived notion about who the cannabis consumer is, but it is not a child. It is not a teenager. It is your friends. It is your neighbors. It is my parents. And that is important. And that has merit in this conversation. I also do not want to dismiss the number of folks who have shared family crises. Those
1
are
minute
very
remaining.
real. Sorry, what?
1 minute remaining.
Okay, those are very real. And so it is important to me that you hear from me tonight that I am not here to undermine those experiences. I am deeply sorry that your family is experiencing that trauma, and you will never hear anything from our team to try and eliminate that or undermine that. That is not why we are here. We are a responsible, compliant business. We came to the city with a project that we believed could benefit this community, and we have communicated transparently with the city, with staff, with this community, and that is our commitment if selected to operate locally for the lifetime of this business. Thank you. I think I actually beat time, so I'm going to just walk away. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I've got lots of notes here, but I'm pretty sure next on the list is opening it up to the commissioners to discuss. We've heard a lot, we've read a lot. I'll open the floor. Does anyone want to start? I know we have to view it as a package. Does anyone want to start with general comments before we start getting into the piecemeal? You've been thrown under the bus.
There are quite a few people online. If you can all speak into your microphones.
Will do. You know, a lot of people in this room are people I know or friends, and we're a small community. It's always difficult when things like this come up that divide the community, and it's not a good position to be in to have to weigh in on something like this. I'm 73 years old, and when I was a young man, drugs were pretty rampant in high school, college. Most of my fellow students and friends, the ones that lost their lives, very few of them were from drug overdose. It was alcohol and driving. And we live in an area that we embrace alcohol and we think it's a wonderful thing. And yet cannabis, like someone referred to, reefer madness, that it's this evil weed that will destroy our society. I don't believe that to be the case. I think anytime we use any kind of drug or alcohol, moderation is the thing you want to have in your life. And I think we live in a community. There are a lot of people that use cannabis and for various reasons. And the products are available to them outside the county. And I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be available to people who live in the county. We have a statewide law that legalized it. I read an op-ed the other day that said, what did the state do? They should have handled cannabis just like they do alcohol. It should be legal in every county and city in the state of California and only regulated and taxed at the state level, not by local government. And the other thing I would warn people about, if you think young people are not getting cannabis, they don't need a dispensary. There is black market cannabis, very cheap. Why would a young person go to a dispensary and pay 10 times what they can get on the street? The other thing you need to be aware of, obviously, if you have young people, the chance of getting an illicit drug that is spiked with something that they may not be aware of, like fentanyl, exists. And at least if you're an adult and you can go to a dispensary, you know you're going to get a product that you can trust, just like you go to a pharmacy. I have a friend who lost her husband, terminal illness, and his specialist was in Sacramento. And the doctor walked him down to a cannabis dispensary so he can have medication to help him through his illness. We have a medical use. We have older, and I think I asked the question in one of the workshops, wonder what the average age. Well, now we know 45, and I think it might be even older than that if you really do the research. So I agree, young people should not be accessing this, but if they're inclined, they already are. And if you're naive to think that it is not available readily. I talked to a business owner. They have young people that work for them. They said, hey, we're talking about this cannabis dispensary. How do you get your marijuana? Oh, we just buy it from anybody we want in town here. You can again grow 6 plants yourself. There's illegal grows everywhere. That is a big problem in California because the cannabis is taxed so heavily, it's become so expensive, the black market is rampant. So anyway, those are my thoughts, but I appreciate all your comments.
Okay.
All good. Thank you all. This is our best attendance. We just really appreciate hearing from the community. I mean, it's just whether you're for, whether you're against, we enjoy hearing from you. Come to other meetings. It's hard. I mean, I hate when things come before us that are hard decisions that are breaking us apart. Many of you I know personally. Obviously, I'll see you at the grocery store tomorrow. But I mean, I never believed that the youth should have this. I taught youth education. I didn't drink till I was 21. I've done marijuana legally. Not my thing. But I have friends and I had family members who had medical cards for valid reasons. One of who is now a PhD in biochemistry. There's a lot of things that hurt us. Drugs in general are one of them. Whether you decide to drink alcohol, whether you decide to take marijuana, any drug is not necessarily good for you. I highly, highly, highly recommend using self-control as much as you possibly can. But it's hard. Things are getting more potent. So it's just being cautious and being aware of the situation as much as we possibly can. Thank you all.
Thank you for everybody's comments. As a board, we have to look at this packet as a whole. We can't pick it apart. The biggest concern I hear is about children. My background, I am a nurse, and I worked in the ER for a very long time in an ICU as a critical care nurse. So you want to talk about drug overdoses? Yes, we do see THC. We see psychosis with that, but it pales in comparison to opioids and fentanyl. Hand over fist. If you want to talk about what you see comes through the emergency room with children and adults, it is fentanyl. THC overdoses are very minimal, but I do understand your concern about children getting this. You can order this online and have it delivered to your doorstep without you being aware at all that your kids are ordering this. It is prominent, it is everywhere. I think when it comes to this community and your concerns about it being close to the high school, I absolutely understand that. And it can be a very scary subject for all of us. There are studies that show it's bad. There are studies that show that it's good. I'm glad that you're here today. It's a lot for us to consider, and it is a hot topic for this community. I just got on this planning commission a few months ago. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. So I hustled home from work. This is important. I understand the concerns. We take this absolutely seriously. I wish you guys would come to, like Tommy said, more of the other council meetings for the small stuff. It's good that we have a strong community. So we're taking this to heart. We have a lot to consider, but thank you for your input.
Thank you. I have similar sentiments. I actually came into this thinking one direction, and now I'm sitting very much a bit more on the fence. It's a very difficult topic, as we've all heard here tonight. It is desirable for a good portion of the community, but it's also highly undesirable. And I know it's our job to weigh all these portions up. I do agree that, alcohol is a huge part of this community, and I feel it's much more damaging, and it's here, and it's education to our youth. You can grow 6 plants in your backyard, in your house. To say that having a dispensary here will increase availability and proximity, I don't think it will. Youth are getting it. If anything, it's making it slightly more safer. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. That being said, we do have a job here tonight, and I do want, I do have some questions. Lauren, you said at the beginning that the dispensary in general has had a transformative impact on the community. Could you expand just briefly on that? I'd like to know specifically with the small communities, what exactly have you seen, if you can, statistically, metrically?
Okay. I don't have a bunch of statistics prepared for you
That's okay,
tonight,
but
but
roughly.
yeah, I can just share, I think,
Yeah.
some anecdotes. As Josh mentioned, we operate in 17 communities across California, and we work in partnership with our local governments, our state regulatory partners, law enforcement, and community groups with a focus on youth servicing nonprofits in the communities where we operate. So I think about the sort of the layers, like I was talking about layers of security, the layers of impact. So at a most basic level, we come into and breathe life into spaces that have historically been underutilized. We bring security infrastructure, we bring new aesthetics, we bring neighborhood beautification, we bring employees that do volunteerism. That volunteerism is neighborhood walks and cleanups. So at its most basic level, we come into spaces that are not meaningfully contributing to their communities, and we employ local residents who then work in those spaces and turn that building and our existence within that neighborhood into a positive impact. Then we've, since the beginning, since day one, engaged in community partnerships. We believe that's really important and it's integral to our business model because we understand that this is new for communities, right? In 2016, folks went and they voted for legalization and everybody sort of felt like this light switch flipped, right? It went from illegal to sort of seemingly legal overnight. And communities felt really left out of that conversation. So rather than just having these conversations in these rooms with elected leaders, we decided from the beginning to create community boards in each of the communities where we operate and bring them to the table. We meet with them quarterly so that we can be getting feedback from the community. They're volunteers that sit on this board about how we're operating as a business and how we should be allocating those funds. So I can give you a bunch of examples of
And
that.
with that community board, is that the same one as in the development agreement?
Yes,
So
it
you would
is
be meeting with them as well as them
quarterly.
just having a meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And we invite as non-voting members, representative from local government. So you can see that we're doing what we say we do. As a company, we host more than 60 of those meetings every year.
And just so everyone's aware, because we've delved into the packet, but I'm not sure the nitty gritty, is there's 3 people, 3 community members, 2 from Sutter Creek, 1 from Amador County. I did have questions regarding that specific one. I was wondering, I don't want it to be discriminatory, but is there a way that we can assign one of those roles to be an individual of the younger generation? I would like to see a representative in the younger generation on there. Do you want to? Yeah. Okay. I don't know the legalities of it, which is why I'm asking.
Well, I'll just say a couple things. First, I think the development agreement's a minimum threshold for us to hit with those targets. And that's, those conversations are ongoing. I know we've reached out to several people in this room, some willing to talk with us about it and hold us accountable, some not so much. I would personally love a younger person to be involved as someone who knew this community very intimately as a young person. And what I'll say is, we view these boards, and it's Lauren mentioned the 60 meetings a year. Those are my 60 meetings a year that I take. And we view the 2 simultaneous functions of this board of providing accountability and directly informing the philanthropy, the volunteerism, the other community benefits we offer is really paramount. And it's our goal throughout that process to identify a board that is equally equipped and interested in both aspects of that dual responsibility.
And then just to sort of finish my thought, going back a little bit, rewinding a little bit
Yeah.
to your question. So what are some of the examples of the way that this work has been impactful? There are many. I would be here all night. In South Lake Tahoe, we opened in June of 2020. If you think back to that time, what a wild time to open a retail business. And that community had this really tough dichotomy where many of the residents were in service jobs across state line in Nevada and still having to go to work, but suddenly their schools were closed and their kids had to stay home, but they weren't able to stay home with their kids. So we were able to immediately direct our community funding to sending kids to summer camps so that they had supervision, to providing funding for the Boys and Girls Club to go in and do welfare checks in those homes and with those unsupervised children. We've partnered with the Tahoe, sorry, is that still working?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
like-
sorry. The Tahoe Alliance for Safe Kids, formerly the Tahoe Drug Free Coalition, to provide them funding for their work because those unsupervised kids, what do kids do when they're unsupervised? They get into bad things, right? So we were able to immediately jump in and fill a void that the community didn't otherwise have a sort of funding for. In Martinez, as an example, there was actually a city council member that's a insular, small town feel community. There was a council member that actually voted no on our project. She was just not, this was a number of years ago, and she just wasn't comfortable with cannabis. Because of the transformative impact of the community dollars that we invested in that community over a number of years, once she was no longer on council, she actually asked to join our board to participate in those conversations because she saw the real world impact of that. In Fresno, a community that has a very long or sort of a many underserved communities within the city of Fresno, we've given hundreds of thousands of dollars in just 3 years to launch a third-party accredited, so it's not Embark, it's not us, it's a third-party accredited youth drug education and prevention program in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. We fund that program, we fund the curriculum, we fund the support services needed to execute that curriculum in their clubhouses, and they actually just had a youth win like Youth of the Year or something for Boys and Girls Club, who had gone through that program and talked about the impact of that program for them, the transformative impact of that program in their acceptance speech. Okay, I can stop.
Well, I do have one unrelated question. In the packet, I know it mentions the 8%, the 1% community fund. What is unclear, and I combed through it, it's kind of contradictory, is the drug education. Will that be funded out of the 1% community fund, or would that be separate too? Because it doesn't actually make clear in the packet.
I appreciate that, and we'll want to make sure that's clear moving forward. The youth drug prevention program, it's called Botvin Life Skills. I encourage you all to look it up. It's a really, I say it's like the less crummy version of DARE. Really awesome curriculum. That's the kind of flagship contribution we always strive to make out of the 1% contribution. So it stems from the 1% community investment fund. Obviously, those funds are expended at the direction of that community advisory board, 100% control of the fund, but we always try to assist in identifying a partner and then ensuring that program can be funded.
Thank you.
Quick question for staff. I know it was mentioned a few times. Why this route? I mean, I know apparently there were other applicants that did this and then were kind of shot down. What makes this different?
So we were not looking for this.
I see.
Embark approached the city starting in December, and they have done this development agreement approach in other cities in California. So we brought it to the council in February and said, do you want to entertain a submission? That's what the council voted, said, yes, we'll accept a development application. Green and Gold reached out much later, and what I told them was we would put them through the same process. We'd bring it to council to see if they wanted to entertain an application. And this was like, right as we're getting ready for this meeting. So that's where I said, let us get through this. But council did not say, and was part of the discussion in February, that they wanted to change the zoning and take a bunch of applications, or that they wanted more than one store. It was really like, we'll consider a package deal. We'd like to see what's being offered, and we'll consider that. So
Thanks, Tom.
So on that note, I've researched it and got how I've struggled with how the approach is taken. I work with a lot of government agencies, the whole judicial process, taking at least 3 bids, looking to see what options there are, not making it a monopoly. I do struggle with this, and I understand it is a pilot program. What I'm not so agreeable to is it's a 1-year pilot to push through to 5 and potentially unlimited from the writing of the agreement. Is there's no option to at any point look at other applicants because of the writing of the zoning, and should this move ahead, this one applicant will be moving straight into the pilot, which will potentially be unlimited, and there will be no chance, because of the zoning, the way it's writing up, is one applicant at a time, one dispensary at a time. There will be no opportunity for someone that has operated locally or other ones to even petition it.
Wouldn't they do the same process? Is what
Then we would have to go back through the ordinance and open a second one, and
So,
it's a very lengthy.
Chair Mulvey, as the drafter of the ordinance, the structure was such that we're a small city. And the findings as you go through that ordinance reference the fact that we are a small city, that this is a new use, that there's obviously some opportunities here. But, you know, places like, for instance, San Bernardino, which is a city where, you know, there's been some litigation and there's been a lot of, you know, it's a very big city. That's a city of 300,000. You know, we're a city of, I think, 2,500 to 3,000. And, you know, so the idea is that we're making legislative findings, and there's a lot of language in there to document those findings, that really at this time, one use is what the city in its what the legislative body, the city council, which you're making a recommendation to, they would be making a finding that really it's only, we only have the ability to support one at this time because of the uniqueness, because of the size of the city, because of the local market. We don't want to saturate. We want this to be successful if it's going to be here. We don't want, and so that's why the ordinance is drafted the way it is. And that would be ultimately, you would be approving this project. If the council approves the ordinance would only allow one use at a time, but the one use at a time is a key feature of that ordinance. It doesn't mean the council can't change that over time. There could be further amendments, and we would have to go through a process similar to this. But the idea is sort of a one step at a time, and let's have one use. Let's see how it works. You know, and it's really a legislative determination. There is not a legal requirement that you have competitive bidding or an RFP. A number of cities have gone through that process, but these again are big cities, and you know, their approach was, well, let's really drive up what we can get out of these folks. Let's really leverage them and see what we can get. And that's a different approach than what we've taken here. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
I have one more question for you. In researching this, and the legalities, is this project considered discretionary action by the city, or are there existing conditions built into the general plan and zoning that allows the minor changes to the ordinances?
This is definitely a discretionary project from a CEQA standpoint.
Okay.
So, you know, there is discretion. You will be exercising discretion in granting or not granting a conditional use permit and the design components. The council would be using discretion if it chooses to make the zoning amendments. We're obviously saying staff is confident in its reliance that there's an exemption. But I mean, when you have an exemption, that means that you are exercising discretion, but there are certain categorical findings that can be made that don't require a further level. So it's definitely discretionary. And so obviously that means that this commission should use its judgment to make an informed decision.
Mhm. Well, given all that's opinions that have been said today, I have reviewed the CEQA portion, and I do find that it is exempt. And the exceptions to the exemption, I don't think apply in this situation, and the exceptions being unusual circumstances, so non-typical circumstances. This is still a business. This is still a retail. It's still a C2. It's still an existing building. It is not a sensitive location in the sense that it's not near any wetlands, any sensitive environments. There are no cumulative impacts. This is the one site. There are no historic routes through here, and it's not a hazardous waste site. Historical use, it's on bedrock. There are no concerns as far as the CEQA goes. As for the entire packet, would you like us to start by, is there any more comments before anyone moves to do a motion? All right.
Madam Chair, may I make some guidance?
Absolutely.
You have two resolutions. One is the resolution that will make your recommendations to the Planning Commission. And then you have one that would approve, if you adopt the uses, the conditional use permit. My recommendation when it comes time to vote is that you take a vote on each. So the motion should be as to each resolution. And I would recommend that you take the legislative first, because that really is the key point. If you don't think the ordinance should be changed, obviously we'll still ask you to vote on the other resolution, but I think that's the threshold issue. So you'll need to take votes separately on both resolutions.
Yep. All right. With that said, would anyone like to start by making a recommendation to approve the resolution or the recommendation to the city council specifically to approve the ordinance and the development agreement? Any motions?
Well, I'm not,
I-
I think the first thing was it's categorically exempt from CEQA.
Yes.
And, well, that would be part of the, and I would make a recommendation to the city council that we approve the ordinance change to allow one dispensary with, in addition, recommend that they approve the development agreement too, with all the findings and conditions of approval for both of those.
I'll second that motion.
I would like to make comment to that before it's third. While I agree to the zoning change, I feel the developmental agreement needs to be clarified in regards to the drug education. In addition, section 6.1.1 on page 51 states that the retail fees shall be due to the city by the 15th of each month. And then in the following section, 7.1, remittance of retail fees and certified reports, it says that they shall submit the certified report and payment of retail fees within 30 calendar days. So there is a discrepancy in that, the 15th and obviously 30 calendar days. There is an overlap there. I would also recommend listing out the due dates rather than just saying it's due the 15th of each month for each quarter.
Sorry, which document are you in?
Sorry, I am on page 51 of the development agreement. I would also like to comment that I would remove, oh no, that's in the CUP, so never mind. Sorry, there's lots of notes.
I would second that amendment.
And in addition to that, sorry, I would like a full review after the 1-year permit. I know it says in here that there will be, but I think options to review other dispensaries should in some way, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel that just leaving it to one dispensary, there may be legal implications to keeping it as a monopoly. But that's all I have.
Going back to your 6.1, 7.1.
Yep, if you can review the language in that. The dates of fees being due, it's contradictory.
So it's due on the 15th,
And then it
but
says
then they have like a net
within
30.
30 days, yeah.
But I think it's saying that there's no late fee
Okay.
for 30 days. It's like
Alright.
you have a lot of bills that are due in a date, but then you have but we can check that one.
So the resolution can be approved, but what we can include in the motion language is that the planning commission recommended
Review
that
the language of the doc.
that staff review that language and then make suggested changes to the city council. Is
Thank
that,
you. Yeah.
Chair, is that your, okay?
That's
Okay, and then, so I'll turn to our clerk. Does that, have you captured that? Okay. So so I just want to make clear, the motion is to approve the resolution that would recommend the ordinance changes and the development agreement. But we would, the staff would be directed to address the items the chair has raised and present those to the city council in the draft version of the agreement that goes to city council.
Yes,
Thank you.
And then Chair, what was your comment about at the 1 year point?
a full review. And it's already in there. There's a second motion, so all in favor?
The amendment.
Excuse me, can we take a roll call vote on this?
Vote.
Chair Mulvey,
Aye.
Vice Chair Baggett,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kirkley,
Aye.
Commissioner Trudgeon is absent.
Okay, and the second findings is as a packet approval, the conditional use permit, the site plan, the sign permit, and the CEQA exemption. Is there any comments that we want to make before we do a blanket approval? I would like to, in the conditional use permit, condition 27 on page 17, it states, if and when delivery becomes available, a plan must be submitted to the city for review. No more than 2 delivery trips permitted per day. Currently, that is the state law for, I think, the first year. I would like to review the language and actually prompt to remove that and change it to comply with state laws and regulations.
Good.
So just so we understand your intent, if the state allowed more deliveries, you would want that to happen?
Yes, I think 2, even on our small community, is extremely limiting, especially since there is a significant elderly population and it would improve that.
So,
And the price of fuel is so high, 2 trips.
so Chair, just so I can make sure the record, the motion can be made and then we can record that and because this is different. This is, you're actually the approval body
Yes,
on
I'm
this. So, I'm looking at condition 27. If and when delivery becomes available, a plan must be submitted to the city for review, period. It sounds like you're fine with that sentence.
Absolutely.
What I hear you saying, and please correct me, is that we would strike the second sentence and we would say the number of delivery trips permitted per day shall be in accordance with state law.
Yes, and it's my understanding from reviewing the laws, there are limitations to that in existence. So I would just say that it maintains the legalities.
Do you mind if we ask the applicant if that is something they would like to have?
Also, just one clarification. It's 1 delivery trip could be 10 stops on the route. Okay, just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay.
I think you're asking if we would accept that condition?
No, I'm asking if it's important to you, if we kept it at 2.
2 trips.
We are in favor of the proposed amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll ask the clerk, did you get that language?
Yes.
Okay. So, if the motion is to approve the resolution with that change, and there's a second, the record would clearly reflect that, and then we would make the change to the resolution and present it to the chair for signature if the pleasure of the commission is to approve.
I would make the motion with that change.
I would second that motion.
And can you clarify, you're making all the findings, required findings?
All the findings.
These are all 3.
This is for the site plan permit, the conditional use permit, the sign permit, and also the CEQA
exemptions
that you're finding. It's exempt.
All
Okay.
4.
3 plus exemptions.
Oh, I guess I jumped the gun on the CEQA exemption.
Hey, Chair Mulvey,
Aye.
Vice Chair Baggett,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Quickly,
Aye.
and then Commissioner Trojan is absent.
All right. That concludes our one project for the evening. Thank you all for being here. This was not made lightly, and I really appreciate the attendance. All of us like having a crowd. Thank you very much. And I will call the session. Turn it-